I'm Justin Laidlaw.
And I'm Chris Fidiello.
And this is Sights on the City with Clarion Content. Today we're talking with Councilman Eddie Davis.
In a row, and he actually appears in some of those episodes too.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic fact.
Yeah.
Another Durham connection.
That's
Excellent. Well, we're here at Clarion Content talking with Councilman Eddie Davis, Justin Laidlaw. I'm Chris Fidiello. We're trying to talk to sort of all sorts of council people and candidates for city council at this sort of moment in Durham history, where we have a lot of change going on very quickly, and to a lot of people sort of on the street, it's change that's exciting, incomprehensible, troubling, all in the same moment.
Sure.
And we'd just love to sort of talk a little bit about this moment in Durham and what you're working on. One of the things that I've been really interested in is how so much change is happening inside the downtown area, and I look east and I see change stopping at almost like a line right in the road, and I'm wondering about what's going on in East Durham, what kind of change is going on that maybe the rest of the city isn't hearing about, and what kind of vision is there on the council for East Durham going forward?
Well, people are hearing about it. They're very proud of the change, the renaissance that seems to be happening here in this portion of town. But folks are really, really cognizant of the fact that that change that you say does have parameters. Not that anyone is trying to purposely keep change and growth and revitalization out of other communities, but we've got to do some things to replicate what has happened here. We're at a crossroads. Durham has had a wonderful, vibrant history, particularly in the African American community when you go down the Fayetteville Street corridor, the old Hayti area. And much of the change that we've seen here in this downtown area has not moved down across the expressway. So that's one of the things that we're trying to do right now, to come up with ways that can invite people who are interested in business, commerce, affordable housing in those areas that can make the revitalization that we've seen here in downtown extend out to other portions of the city. The Fayetteville Street corridor is one, East Durham is another one. The West End seems to be having a revitalization to some degree with the co-op grocery store there and some of the other kinds of things. So we're working on trying to make sure that we can indeed have the conversations that would lead to a much fuller revitalization of the city of Durham.
How does if you don't mind me
go ahead.
cutting in, the University Central, that's right there on Fayetteville Street in that corridor, how can they play a role in this revitalization, this renaissance that's happening, whether it's from the students, from the administration, from the alumni? How can they be more of a presence? Duke is and has certainly been a presence in Durham, but how can Central enter that conversation to help move some of this progress?
Well, being a state institution, they are confined by the lack of a big budget and other kind of things from being able to really be the player that we all want them to be. But there are lots of people at the university who are trying to make sure that there is more of a revitalization, more opportunities for students to be able to spend the money that they have in their own community while they're here. Being able to not just board a bus to go downtown or go out to the mall and those kind of things. So there are many discussions that are going on from the alumni, from the residents around the area and other places. The problem in terms of just getting to the campus poses some challenges. Lots of people think that there can be some sprucing up of the neighborhood down Fayetteville Street, down Austin Avenue as you come into the university. But North Carolina Central is a key player in what we need to do for the revitalization there. They are the ones that would be the biggest recipient of a bustling kind of commercial and entertainment area that would occupy many of the dollars and the interest of their students. So people really want to do some things, and we're hoping that that can be realized as we move down the road.
If a student wanted to figure out how to get more involved, what could they do? You know, students, whether they have the money, they have the ambition, they have the energy to want to get involved in their community, but may not know what direction to aim that ambition. So how could they become more involved in their community to help?
Well, it's a wonderful question, and a couple of things. One is that we have been talking, and North Carolina Central is in Ward 2, although for the City Council, it really doesn't matter where you are. All 7 of the City Council members really are voted upon by all of the citizens and thus represent all the people. So it's not a true ward system like we get when you look at congressional districts and those kind of things. So we all are trying to represent it. But since it is in Ward 2, which I represent, residentially, at least, I've taken a great interest in trying to have regular dialogues with the students on the campus, and I've been working with the Student Affairs Department to see if we can have those kinds of conversations about what they see as their role as residents here in Durham, and how can we as a city make things more convenient for them, or more other kinds of amenities that they might want to see. They have things on the campus, but we want to make sure that they are able to take advantage of the campus activities as well as the commercial activities that surround them. The other thing that I'm very interested in, you know, they have a wonderful school of business there at North Carolina Central, and what I'm hoping that we might be able to do down the road is to create a living kind of work environment where students who are studying the theory of business might be able to also put together some practical kinds of business applications. What would be great, I think, is that each year if we could have some kind of business opportunity that the students here at North Carolina Central would be able to put together in the incubator stage and then the realization stage, much like what we see at American Tobacco Underground.
And they have an office there, Central does. They have an entrepreneurship office there.
So we need to expand that and to make sure that the business opportunities that could be realized there would be something that could be done on an annual basis. I just think that young entrepreneurship, particularly in a predominantly minority setting, would be a wonderful blueprint for the older communities, and we can do some things there on the university campus.
And on a national scale.
On a national and international scale, yeah.
It seems like schools that have entrepreneurship programs, and it's like I know a little bit about entrepreneurship at NC State and the sort of fledgling creative entrepreneurship program at Duke that is not too many years old, I don't know, maybe less than 5 years old, I think. There's sort of students get educated on how to start something, and then they get their degree, step off campus, and it's like there are certain resources that they just no longer have at their disposal. I mean, one obviously is money, you know, but you have a degree, and with a degree you can maybe get at money through a bank or something like that. What are some of the, I mean, just like dreaming for a moment, what are some of the sort of elements of that cocktail that would help graduating entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs in the Durham area get a project up and running, get a business up and running here, as opposed to leaving here and going to, you know, a larger city, for instance?
Well, I think that process is something that we can grow right here in Durham, and particularly with North Carolina Central and with Duke and with students over at Durham Tech also. We ought to be able to give them the kind of skills and skill sets that would allow them to be able to practice that while they're in school, and then to be able to be ready for the venture capital kinds of situations that would make these business opportunities thrive. So I think that those are wonderful kinds of blueprints and game plans that we ought to be put together. And Durham has always bragged about the fact that it has a wonderful entrepreneurial African American community with North Carolina Mutual, with Mechanics and Farmers Bank, with people who had the independence that may not exist in other parts of North Carolina. We ought to be able to get them to utilize that business community to try to make sure that we can help them to grow the kinds of business ideas that they have. If the light bulb can go off in their heads, we ought to be there to try to support them as they move along. And if you expand it to Duke, there are wonderful ways that you can take advantage of the legacy that we have here in Durham and to be able to grow upon it. We talked earlier about Crossroads and the wonderful history that we've had, where we are now, but more importantly, where we can go. So I'm really excited about the possibilities of the kinds of ventures that we can involve our young people and our gray-haired people in the process also. Yeah. But we ought to have continuing conversations that will allow for citizens to talk to elected officials and to do some long-range planning to look at how we can make this a much more important city in the minds of the people who actually live.